My dear young, energetic, magnetic friends, you are welcome, all of my viewers. Would you like to hear a story? Or have you ever used to hear a story from your grandpa or grandma? Yes, it's very interesting. I used to hear a story from my granny every day when I was young before going to bed. And my granny was very much interested to tell me the story about Ramayana and Mahabharata. He remembered all the incidents of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Very interesting stories. I still remember some of them. But today, don't worry, I am not going to tell you any story about Ramayana or Mahabharata. But today I came across two beautiful photographs. Somebody has sent in the social media, in the WhatsApp, in our group. There are two pictures. In one picture, I have seen a jar full of the grains, and some mouse are very happy to eat these grains. And juxtaposing the same jar in the another big jar, inside there are few grains are there, and two mouse are there. They are also eating. Something was written in details. I have read in hurriedly, and then I thought it's a very interesting topic, and that's why I cannot resist myself to tell the story about the mouse. Once upon a time, there lived a mouse in a city, and this mouse was very sincere and laborious to find his food. He used to travel in the different homes in the fields to collect grain for himself and for his family. He was very much sincere, but some days he gets some food and some days he didn't get. But he relentlessly used to do these hardships to collect his food. And every day is not equal. One day, fortune favors him and he found a big granary. But he was very much hesitant to enter this granary. Actually, in that city, the people were very much cautious about mouse, and they used to keep mouse trap in every house. And some of the fellow members of that poor mouse were trapped in the mouse trap. And that's why that mouse, being the responsible for his family, was very much cautious not to be trapped in the mouse trap. And that is the reason he was very much hesitant. But somehow he gathered courage and entered through the small hole in the bottom corner of the door of that granary. And he understand after entering that it is the granary, but nobody has entered in this granary for long times. But the granary was definitely full of grains. It might be that somebody has stored grains for the bad times but never entered and never took care to preserve those grains. He saw two big jars made up of the glass, and there are some support definitely in the outside to rise in the top of this jar. And he was fortunate enough to find that a small hole on the lid of the granary, on the lid of this jar, so that any mouse can enter. He was very happy to see the enormous amount of the grains in these jars, and that's why he took his food, and up to his full satisfaction after eating his food, he went to home and informed his wife, his children, and all his fellow members that there are enormous grain, our bad days are over, and we can happily feed on out of these grains. So came along with his family and the friends. They were so pleased that they stopped going to collect the food, going to search the food. And they tried to multiply their number years after years. So after passage of 2 years, with this so many numbers of the mouse, one day mouse found that they are just at the bottom of the jar. Only few grains are remaining there. And then he understood that they had already got inside the trap and tried his hardest to rise above the lid. But the glass wall of the big jar was very much slippery. He tried his hardest, but he was unable. He was totally under the mercy of somebody to help him or somebody to put the grains to feed him and his family. Now, from the happiness, they suddenly become the hapless. So it is the tragedy. And this tragedy resembles with most of us in the professional field. And particularly for the persons who are in the category of the CC. Do you know what CC? In Hindi or other Indian language, CC means bottle. And bottle word is quite associated with the bottleneck. Bottleneck means something restriction. And in many stories of the Arabian Night, it is expressed that the big size genie or powerful genie were controlled inside the bottle. That means genie used to be controlled by putting forcefully inside the CC in Hindi. Now I am going to describe about the CC. It is not the CC bottle, but it has some resemblance. That's why I told CC means single income, single identity. Yes. Particularly this category of the people are very much vulnerable of not taking risk. Only they can take risk in their initial years of career or setting up some new business. But later on, when they grow in age, when their family increases with the number of the kids, lot of liabilities, lot of jobs come into their mind and they are completely overwhelmed. And they are not in the position to take risk. So what happens? just like the mouse in those jars in the bottom. After finishing the grains, they are trapped inside the jars. From this beautiful story, we can learn at least 4 lessons. Number 1, any short-term pleasure might be the long-term trap. Yes, any short-term pleasure might be the long-term trap. Just like it happened for the mouse inside the granary, inside the jar. If things are coming easy, you are getting comfortable and you will be trapped to become in the survival state only, in the survival mode. That means you won't try to improve yourself because easily you are getting your feed. That was number 2. And number 3 comes that when you are not using your potential, your strength, you simply lose it. It is just like your muscle. If you exercise daily, your muscle will become strong. But if you don't, you will lose your muscle. So what happened to the mouse family? That they just stopped finding any grains or any other sources of getting food. So they become completely complacent and they lost their potential. Number 4, last but not the least, if you don't take action at the right time, right decision, then it will be a bad decision. It will be finished in the position of the mousetrap. You will not be able to come out from that vicious situation and you will be completely become the slave out of your own actions. So my dear young energetic friends, would you like to be that mouse or just an action taker in your life so that you can flourish, you can improve, you can rock everywhere? This is just a lesson for the young professionals. And I thought it is quite relevant to express and to share in this valuable group. My dear friend, stay awesome, stay happy, stay jovial, stay always productive.